It's Sunday morning, so you know what that means. Time to grab a cup of joe and watch some GT3s race around in the morning. Your favorite pre-race tradition is once again going on. This time, we're in Austria at the Red Bull Ring. That actually means only one thing. Hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy Scott. Hamish Munro joins us in Omet. Back of the booth, making it sound oh so good as we're live here at the Red Bull Ring. Season 5, Round 9. And Hamish, it's been one of those race series where you go around the world, but still, this is an absolutely fantastic track for GT3s to be racing at.
Oh, for sure is, Jeremy. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you once again. And it's always a pleasure when I get to come to my favorite racing circuit in the world, in the Red Bull Ring. I know it might be a little bit of a unjust choice to have the Spielberg circuit as my favorite racing circuit in the whole world, but this is a circuit with so many nuances about it. It is deceivingly difficult. You look at the track map and you think it looks very basic, it looks very easy, but the one thing that the track map doesn't show us is the undulation changes around this place. It's a roller coaster ride around Spielberg. It's a very, very quick lap, of course, and it's known mostly for the Formula One Grand Prix as well as the MotoGP when it comes out here to Austria as well, but it's no stranger to sports car racing. And these GT3 cars, they suit this place like peanut butter and jelly in a sandwich, Jeremy. It's a fantastic combination. And whenever you get to put a lap together here and you get it pinpoint accurate and correct, you feel absolutely on top of the world whenever you get to go racing around here. So I'm super excited, as I always am whenever I get to come to Red Bull. Exciting to be a part of the Coffee Cup this morning for OGRL as well. And I'm excited to see how these pros, pro-ams and AMs do at a circuit that often catches a lot of drivers out when they attempt it.
Well, we are in qualifying as you see David Roy quickest in GT3 Pro, 29.801, 30.420 is the fastest for the Pro-Ams, with Pasta up at the top there, and Matthews 30.638 in AM. You know, Hamish, what I like to say when it comes to these European tracks is I got a lot of my introduction in my formative years watching German touring cars here in the States on the then Speed Channel. And that's how I got introduced to Spielberg, Zandvoort, all the fantastic German road courses. You mentioned the nuances of this track. It is so, you know, take a look at turn 10, for example, where we're at right now. You've got the dip, and you got to make sure that you don't go too wide. It looks like a flat corner on the surface, but really, you got to let off and kind of get that car balanced.
Not even just through turn 10, Jeremy. I mean, we're running up here through turn 1. The difficulties and nuances of turn 1 as you approach it, running it as wide as possible on entry, trying to hug as much of the curbing to your left-hand side, cutting in for a late break apex, and then trying to run it wide again out to the left to the curb on the exit, but managing not to hit the sausage curbs is sometimes one of the biggest difficulties around here. And then running it back up the hill towards turn 3, where again, it's a tightening corner. It's a corner where drivers will make absolute Olympic level dive bombs into the pool that is turn 3. They'll attempt to go up the inside, and often at times they'll get overhooked with each other, and it doesn't come out pretty if that happens. So I think the undulation changes around this place, the car going offload and underload, they're some of the biggest difficulties. And in some of these GT3 cars, especially with the modern BOP on them, based on Bathurst the previous few weeks for the 12-hour, this is a track that can become extremely challenging depending on the time of year you're racing it, because of how the cars are set up, because of which cars are best suited to this style of circuit. I think ultimately they've lucked out, because Bathurst has got enough elevation changes, enough nuances about it, that the current BOP should suit these cars quite well for tonight's race. But if it was any other time of year, say in a month's time when we're out at Sebring, we may be in for a different story with which cars are going to be the meta, in quotes.
David Van Roy into the pits, fastest time of the session with a 29.802. Raul Pasa, you see on the track right there, 30.421 fastest for him, and I think he's just going to sit there and call it a session. What else we got going on here? I believe that is Curtis Matthews in the, well, that's number 23. But either way, yeah, this is going to be a challenge for these drivers as 10 minutes have clocked in to this qualifying session. And I can't wait to see the track map, because I've seen some of Omet's fantastic track maps, and to me, that is the feature of any pre-race show here on Motormouth Broadcasting, is seeing the care and dedication that she has put in to making the track maps come to life. So it's going to be interesting, especially because this track in and of itself has it has life to it, and it's weird to say that, but it's true that it has a certain amount of personality to it. As you see, Brian Faluna with a 30.047, yellow in sector 1. Let's see what he can do in sector 2.
Runs it down through turn 4 and up towards 5 and 6 as well. Important that he can get this car tucked in right on the apex through here, and just trying to hug the inside curb, running it wide out to the right-hand side, trying to cover as much of the AstroTurf as possible. Luckily for these drivers tonight, there's no rain on the horizon at this stage. This circuit becomes an absolute sweat pool when the water gets onto the track surface. But running it in towards turn 3 again, just trying to hug as wide as possible, running as much of the circuit and tarmac as much as you can tonight. That's going to be important in getting the lap time in. You've got to use all the road around here, getting the flow, getting the rhythm, and putting yourself in a positive position to try and set the best lap time possible. As Faluna will come up to the line. Merriam previously has now gone to the top, 129.330, an incredible lap time from him on his second attempt. Faluna, well, he won't do any better than P5. His lap was a 130.2, no better than his previous best of a 130.05. Cody Monty's out there as well, looking to finish out his final attempt in qualifying. Pierre Poussey to P3, 129.87. And Bonte is on 2 purple sectors at this stage for his class. He already sits pole position for the Pro-Ams, and it looks like he just wants to walk all over them here, Jeremy, by improving his lap time even more as he goes to P10 overall.
Oh, 30.159, the fastest lap of the session. We go back to Merriam. He has the fastest sector 1 time. How is he going to do through sector 2? Already has the fastest lap so far this session. He goes purple once again, 29.331. That's his time to beat. He's taking that number 1 Aston. Hustled around turn number 8. Sets up for the short straight to turn number 9. The Yukon ring corners. He's 3, 2, 1, 50 into that turn 9 complex. Now sets up for turn number 10. Again, you see on the right-hand side of that bottom box, 29.330 is his time. What does he do across the line? 28.987. Oh, that's even better, as now he's 0.8 of a second over David Van Roy. So at this time, it's going to be an all Aston Martin front row. Fantastic stuff as Adrian Riches on the course.
It's currently matching, Jeremy, the best car of the BOP off the back of Bathurst. Aston Martin had become one of the strongest cars leading into that event, alongside a few others such as the Corvette and the Porsche, as well in terms of pure lap time, as well as the Lamborghini too. And for Adrian Rich, who's the final car on circuit at this stage, he's got 3 laps to complete across the next minute and a half. Well, he's only going to get in 1 more lap opportunity after this one, so at maximum he's only going to get 2 in. So he's got to maximize them. He's got to put this lap together and the next one as well. If this one's not quite close enough, he's got to go all out on lap 2. Ultimately, he's got no time to muck around. He has to put this lap together as best he can as he runs it through sector 2. Up and over the curbs he goes, and this is going to be a major factor of the race later on as well, Jeremy, as we know, with debris getting dragged on the circuit now in the modern variation of iRacing. The gravel traps around here are going to play a part tonight. They're going to be a character in tonight's race in terms of, or this morning's race, in terms of being a factor of drivers can get loose, they can get off track, they're going to drag it back on the tarmac, make the circuit dirty, and that can often catch other drivers out. It's only a 136.21 for Rich. Work to do here on his final attempt in qualifying with only 35 seconds left on the clock.
He's got plenty of time to get something out there and cook up a good lap. But yeah, these gravel traps here around the Red Bull Ring are hungry, especially the one he's headed towards right now, turn 3. Look, it's a long straightaway and it's a tight right-hander. We've seen plenty of times, whether it be here in the service or in real life, how many incidents have happened over in turn 3, sector 1. We'll get that here shortly, but either way, I think that this is another very popular gravel trap at turn 4. So the amount of gravel that's going to be picked up as the checker flag is waved on this session. You know, it's interesting because you don't get to see the tunnel here at Spielberg as much as we get set for a 5-minute warm-up session. So Adrian Rich going to have to do what he can from the back of the field.
Well, it's going to be a tough effort for him to do so, especially around such a short circuit here in Spielberg. 5 minutes on the clock for the wipe, as we said. I think there's no better time to talk us through this circuit right now and to have a look at this wonderful, wonderful racing facility here in Spielberg, Austria. As we find ourselves in the southeast of Austria, of course, not too far north of Turkey, not too far west of Hungary as well. We find ourselves at the wondrous Red Bull Ring here in the Styrian Mountains of Spielberg, Austria. It's a tight circuit. It's a short circuit as well, and it's fast-paced in its approach. And this is going to give you an opportunity to get a visual representation of the elevation change. Lowest point of the circuit, it's the start-finish line. Highest point of the circuit, up at turn 3. The first sector, we find ourselves running up the hill and beginning the climb towards turn 1. As I said, trying to take as much curb to the left-hand side before you enter turn 1. Hug the apex and try not to catch the sausage curbs on the outside. And it's the fast-paced run up through turn 2 and underneath the tomato sign, as it's famously become here on iRacing, it into the braking zone at turn 3 at the top end of the hill. Into sector 2 we go. And again, deceivingly difficult. You get to the highest point of the circuit, right on the apex of turn 3, and then you start the descent back down the mountain once again and down towards turn 4, where drivers will try and get as much of the slipstream as they can down this straight, set themselves up for a move down at 4, but don't oversend yourself. You'll find yourself in the gravel trap before you know it, or you'll find yourself facing the wrong way as well. Again, trying to attack as much of the circuit as possible, using all the tarmac available to you, even the curbs and the AstroTurf is your friend around here as you run it out wide and tuck it back in for turn 6. Again, trying to use all of the track, get all the way across to the gravel. Don't end up in it, though, because you will be crying your way as you dig yourself out of there. Then it's around turn 7. Click the car down to 3rd gear. Get it tucked up on the apex. Go for the switch back through turn 8 as well. Full power down, and you're powering up towards the braking zone of turn 9. The difficulty here is the pit entry. You've got to be careful of cars ahead of you wanting to tuck it into pit lane because it's right there on the right-hand side. So if you're going to try and come through as fast as possible, you've got to be cautious around pit stop time because you could get caught out. The run through the difficult turn 10 and up towards the start-finish line, and just like that, you've done 1 minute and 30 seconds around the wondrous Spielberg circuit here in Austria for the Red Bull Ring. It is famous and wondrous circuit, Jeremy. I think it is overlooked by many, and as I've stated, it's my favorite track for a reason. It's so fun to drive, and when you put a complete lap together around here, where it's perfect tenths, perfect sectors, perfect apexes, you get everything right, you feel on top of the world, and I have a guarantee for you that 28.99 felt on top of the world for our pole city here tonight.
Exactly, and it's going to be fun to see how these drivers make their way. And by the way, the Austrian, this, you know, it's been here since 1969, and much like Lime Rock, there was a proposal for an additional length to go straight off of turn 1, go around a little bit, and come back to turn 3. That would have been fun for something like a GT3 car or any kind of endurance racing, but either way, this is fantastic to see the cars and stars make their way around the Red Bull Ring. Again, we're just about set for the warm-up session. Fastest time so far, 30.653. Alexander Claudio, your quickest in Corvette.
Well, of course, that old Österreich thing, similarly to the Hockenheimring, of course, was an extension of this circuit. It ran into the forest and then back out again. Not quite as long as what the original Hockenheimring was, of course, but still a very fast-paced circuit. I do think that this version is the best version we've ever had of the circuit, though, just in terms of difficulty and layout. And I think it'd be fantastic, Jeremy, for us to have seen prime time early to mid-2000s Deutsche Touring Masters coming and racing around here, because this particular layout would be so fun to see those big, wide-bodied, massive aero DTM cars going at full pace and full noise around the Styria mountainside. I mean, it would have been spectacular.
Oh yeah, like I said, that's how I learned about Austria, all the tracks in Europe is through DTM, and I was lucky enough to see one in Anger several years ago, and yeah, they are just as beautiful in person as they are on TV. So checker flag is out on this warm-up session. As you see, there is actually Alan Purser takes his Porsche up to the top with a 30.181. So we'll get set for some gridding here at the Red Bull Ring as we are set for some Sunday morning racing around the Austrian countryside. It's Ryan Merriam alongside David Van Roy. That is your Aston Martin front row lockout. In row 2, it's Pierre Pucci and Aaron Gearing. Taking a look at row 3, you've got Alexander Claudio and Brian Faluna as the cars are starting to grid up. On the front straightaway, Hayden Young, our first Lamborghini up in the field with Brett Cook in row 4. Row 5 looks like you have Stephen Smalley and Cody Bonte on Porsche row 5. Hamish, what are the next 10 looking like?
Find ourselves with Jeremy Cheney alongside Bradley Tidwell on the 6th row of the grid. To row 7 we go now with Sebastian Fack and Vladislav Polka. Wow, I did not get to read that word fast enough. That's my own fault. Polklonski. Raul Pastor alongside James Hilrick Jr. as well on the 8th row of the grid, and all Ferrari 8th row of the grid out there. Good to see the Fez representation here tonight. Bobby Luolski as well alongside Dustin Dosveis for the top 18 cars too. And to make up our 10th row of the grid, find ourselves with Pernil Hanlett and Curtis Matthews too in the Acura from P20.
As you take a look at row 11, it's Alan Purser and Heath Olinger. Row 12, this is a Porsche Mercedes, row 11. Row 12, it's Will Bailey in the Mustang and JT Sawyer in the pink and black McLaren 24th. 25th is Ken Cloden in his number 66 Garage GT2 Aston Martin. That looks a lot like a very familiar Ferrari Challenge car out here in North America. Paul Kearley rolls off 26th. 27th is Quentin Price. Charles Dew will be alongside in row 14 and 28th, and this is an all Porsche row 14. And Hamish, it's John Gardner and Robert Sackett making up row 15.
Well, outside the top 30 and just missing out on that honour is John Schneebler alongside Julian Ace for the top 32 cars on the grid this evening. To row 17 we go with Mitchell Williams and Micah Dickerson for an all-American freedom-filled 17th row of the grid, with Charles O'Brien and Scott Carlson for the top 36 cars on the grid here this evening. To Danny O'Brien and Chris Slane then for the top 38. Into the 20th row of the grid we'll find ourselves with Cameron Risley and Adrian Rich. We've still got a couple of cars to go after this as well. We've got Tim Probert and Gilles Soanes for the top 42. Into the final position on the grid is David Stoops in the BMW and P43.
So we'll take 43 cars to the start of this 55-minute race as the lights are out on the Porsche pace car. Getting set to run here, and we'll see how this race will play out. Again, 55 minutes. Any final thoughts as we get set for this race?
Make it through turn 1, make it through turn 3, make it through turn 4, make it through turn 6, make it through turn 10, and I think those are probably the most important ones you got to try and make it through. Ultimately, it is survive lap 1, Jeremy. That is the big survival factor here for the Red Bull Ring here in Austria. And to survive lap 1 is a difficulty in itself. And if these drivers can do it, I think we can get some nice, good long green running here tonight with minimal incidents happening. But Austria has a mind of its own. It could claim some victims if these drivers don't bring the respect to it.
They do, and the pace car will be pulling off here shortly in turn number 9. That is the big question. Indeed, they do. Around turn 10 they come. Merriam gets the full jump right now as he is all by himself. We are waiting for the green flag, and it will not come. No start. Actually, no, it is a start as we go from go green, I should say. Or no, I believe that will be a... We're going to do no start. The Gearing gets a black flag, though. Either way, battle for second in class between Pucci, Gearing, and Roy, as Faluna also playing in, but Gearing going to fall back just a little bit as they work their way through turn number 3. And I apologize about that. I'm used to seeing green. I'm not used to seeing the amber on the start gantry, but either way, lots of drivers falling back already, but still, we're looking clean and green through turn number 3.
We're not, Jeremy, because turn 3's having a little bit of biffing and barging further back as cars are struggling back there. We've had one car off the road already tonight in Adrian Rich, but he is still running at this point in time. And then this is the difficulty of turn 3, the tightening corner, the slowing pace. The drivers just don't bring preparation for it in these sorts of trains, and this is the sort of incident that happens. It feels like you're on the motorway in peak hour at this time when you're heading up towards turn 3, and just some drivers just don't bring the patience with them, it seems, as the Lamborghini gets torn off the road. Jeremy Cheney has given a door there to the Lambo of Bradley Tidwell. He'll knock down the order now and will struggle to get that car back on circuit as he traverses the gravel. And well, he was all smiles earlier on in the warm-up. We saw his camera early. He's not all smiles right now. In fact, he's a little bit frustrated, I think. Oh no, it's getting even worse for him at this stage, Jeremy. That's not what we wanted to see from the Lambo.
No, gearing into the pit lane to answer that solid black flag. And of course, you could say at least Tidwell, entered safely enough to where he didn't bring too much gravel on the track, because you definitely don't want to have that gravel on turn 8. Here is this battle for position between Ulrich Pasta and Lewowski. And let's see what happens in turn 3. I'm glad that you saw the entry of turn 3, because yeah, that reminded me a lot of what you would see on the freeway. To the inside goes the Ferrari as they make their way around, as watching off the front of Dawson Vai. Still side by side coming off of turn 3. Once again, it's Porsche against Ferrari for position. That is Pasta on the right, Lewowski on the left, as they go down through turn 4. And already a little bit of dirt being kicked up onto the windshield. I know that that'll get fixed at some point, but either way, just goes to show you how dusty and dirty it can get in those opening laps here around the Red Bull Ring.
If there's a high amount of wind, of course, that can also start to drag a little bit of dust across the circuit too. But again, early incidents, cold tyre incidents as well. Cars are going to end up off track, and with so many cars on circuit time, of course, 43 cars starting this race. We've still got 43 cars on the road. Further back, though, we are getting some incidents here. Scott Carlson has just gone round back at turn 7, right in front of David Stoops and co. So it's heating up at the back end of town, but the front end, Jeremy, is keeping nice and tidy at this point. But the midfield and rear end of the field, again, majority of those guys are amateur drivers or pro-ams. They're struggling here tonight at the Red Bull Ring, and it proves the point of deceivingly difficult as this place. It looks easy, but it's just not, as we see. That's what happened to the Porsche, running wide, catching the sand trap. And we mentioned that it was so close, but David Stoops down there. Oh, I have to wonder if next week he may have a brown race suit on board that car.
I think he's got one on board right now, because, yeah, slamming on the brakes and having to avoid. That was some great defensive move here. Got a battle for 8th in class with Danny O'Brien, John Schneibel, and Charles Dew, as you're watching the 888 of Dew come off of turn number 3. So lots of mixing going on here as Dew trying to get up to that Porsche, I should say. Actually, yeah, the Porsche of Schneibel. So it's Porsche, Ford Mustang here as we go back up towards the front. You got that battle for 6th class as well from Claude and Cheney and Kirali. And oh, look at that, the BMW pushing his way around the Porsche, coming off turn number 8, and they're still side by side. And the Porsche able to get that advantage so far, but the brunt of the BMW really makes it a good choice around here, because you have several good long straightaways to really stretch your legs out with the V8.
Not just that as well. So obviously the balancing of the cars can be quite different, depending on what car you're running. The Porsche, of course, is a completely rear-engine car. If any of the Porsches lose their rear wing, their complete aero is gone. They've got to come into pit lane. They've got to replace the rear wing, because the thing's going to handle like an absolute pig. For the mid-engine cars of the Acuras, the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, and the Corvettes, they're not as susceptible to losing a rear wing and then actually be having some issues with it. But ultimately, you do still want to come in and try and get it fixed up. Then you've got the front-engine cars, of course, of the Mercedes and the BMW. The balancing of those cars for these undulation changes, obviously, with a lot of sort of medium to slow speed corners here at the Red Bull Ring. Even though it's a fast-paced track, the cornering is a lot more mid to slow speed. So we see a replay here of Ken Clodden up towards turn 3, gets hooked up by the Porsche, and around he goes. And yeah, again, the struggles of those mid to rear engine cars around here when you're under load through these medium and slow speed corners. they can just start to get into those sort of issues of what we've previously called before, you know, Porsche doing Porsche things or mid-engine doing mid-engine things of the rear just wants to come round on you. And it's very setup dependent, Jeremy. And so for the front engine cars, even though they've got good grunt about them, they're actually quite well balanced for these styles of circuits because all the weight's in the front, but they're balanced to have some weight in the back still as well. So they balance quite well for these tracks. They can get through the corners well. The big difficulty for them, though, is they don't quite have the pace discrepancy of some of the other cars. And the biggest issue for the Mustang is it's an absolute fuel guzzler, so it will chew through a fuel tank very quickly. That's the biggest downside for the Mustang. Even though it's got good speed, it will chew through fuel. So, especially with its current balance of performance, mid-engine cars right now are the favour. And we saw that through qualifying. The Aston Martin's obviously locking in the front row. Corvette was up there, McLaren and Lambo was up there too, and the Porsches are strong at the moment as well, even though they are a completely rear-engine car. The ones that really got the biggest hit recently is those Mustangs after being super overpowered at Daytona. They've taken a massive hit through Bathurst and now leading into Sebring in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, and of course the Mustang is just so good at Daytona as you see battle for position between Sebastian Fock and Vladislav Polinsky as he loses out on that. Let's see if the Aston can dive to the inside. Indeed, he's going to try and go side by side through turn 6 and now into 7. See a little bit of that gravel being picked up, which, you know, that's just going to happen as Polinsky gets back up into 9th, Fock back into 10th. And of course, knocking at the door not too far away is James Hillerick in just 1.3 seconds, but still close enough to make something happen at some point in this race as Hillerick, you know, sitting 11th in class. But back to what we're talking about with the Mustang, and this is something I talk about with a lot of different commentators, is, and some of the drivers even say, look, we like the Mustang for the long endurance races. We don't necessarily like it for the sprint races. And that was not the case last year, you know, during season 3 and 4 of some of these GT3 series. So, you know, it's all relative. Now the car of choice for these sprint races are the Porsches, obviously, the Acuras. I'm going to go out and say Acura is a very good sprint car, and the Aston Martin is on this time.
I mean, so I suppose if we look at which car was probably the most comfortable car you could have driven at Bathurst, obviously it's a 12-hour race, but it was the slowest, was the McLaren. You look at a sprint format, all of a sudden the McLaren becomes a great choice because it's super stable and you can become super comfortable in it. The balancing of, okay, this car's strong for 12 hours at Bathurst, or it's strong for 24 hours at Daytona, or 12 hours at Sebring, etc., etc. Is it going to be strong for a stint? Is it going to be strong for 55 minutes? And most times, it's not necessarily going to be the case. I mean, we can see Ferraris challenging the overall top 10 of this race. Ferraris have not been the car of choice for a long time, Jeremy. They have really not been. They've kind of just been middle of the road, easy for anyone to jump into if they're making their first attempt at a sports car endurance event. But in a sprint format, they come alive because they're such a standard car of you can be comfortable in it, you can make it fast, and it's only going to be fast for 55 minutes. It doesn't have to withstand 24 hours. So again, that favouring of certain car types is very interesting in how it plays out for these style of races. I'm interested in how these cars are going to develop across the next year. Right, we've got some very special events coming up, of course. Sebring in the next month. We've got, obviously, the Nürburgring coming up in quite a few months' time as well. Spa and Watkins Glen and Indianapolis, and then the 1,000 kilometres of Fuji returns, and as well as Petit Le Mans. And which cars are going to be suited to those events and how it progresses across the year. Although I think the one thing we can agree on, Jeremy, which it has been the case for the last few years, every time we get to the Nürburgring, the Porsche is the car to be in ultimately. So we get to that midpoint of the year and all of a sudden the Porsche is lighting it up because of the 24-hour of the Nürburgring and of Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps as well. And again, then that's when we see the resurgence of the Porsche, and it's a long-time favourite for a lot of drivers. There's a reason a lot of drivers are on the Porsche, because ultimately it's normally quite stable across the year.
No, it really is, and that's why you see a lot of fast drivers in there. We're watching the battle for 5th in GT3 Pro with Hayden Young and Alexander Claudio. Those two are really making it look pretty easy. You saw Young try and pop to the, Claudio pop to the inside in turn 1 last time by. Let's see if he has another assault going into 1. Not going to make anything happen as of yet, as Young deep on the brakes in that Lamborghini. But back to what you were saying, you know, the Porsche is absolutely stout at the Nürburgring, because you've got the headquarters not too far away. So why not get out there and you know, run some laps, take it down, and get it ready for what, you know, that's the race that Porsche wants to win. Yeah, they'd love to win Daytona, they'd love to win Le Mans, but a Nürburgring win sets the tone for the rest of the season for that company, because that is their race. Battle for third in class as well between Bobby Lewowski and Pernell Hinault. That's for the Pro-Am title. Right now you also have Heath Olinger and Paul Kierley. So I had to pour my full pot of coffee in. They're back there in 5th and 6th. There's your BMW sitting right there.
It's interesting. You obviously mentioned the Porsche headquarters as well for the Nürburgring too. I would say to anyone, if you want to try and give yourself a challenge for the Nürburgring 24-hour, do it in a Porsche Cup car. Do it in the new 992.2. See how that thing goes around the Nordschleife for 24 hours. I've never attempted the Nürburgring 24-hour, Jeremy. I don't plan to either. I lost my love for 24-hour races after the Spa 24-hour a few years ago when my car died at 4:30 in the morning. Not quite willing to do that again for any other track, especially the Nordschleife. Maybe a 6-hour. I might dabble at a 6-hour at the Nordschleife, but yeah, try it in the Cup car, because the Cup car is normally a very competitive class, and with that brand new Cup car on offer, probably the best time you could do it. Dustin Dos Weiss is into pit lane as well with a black flag, so he's obviously either encroached a little bit too much with a slowdown penalty, although he's coming for either a pit stop or a stop hold. I'm just checking in on him now. He's in there for more than 40 seconds, of course. That will turn into a stop hold penalty, quite obviously. So interesting that he's had to find his way into pit lane here as we follow along with Charles O'Brien, Cameron Risley and Micah Dickerson as well. Bradley Tidwell's in behind this. We saw him have that early incident down at turn 7, and he's just on the comeback train at this point in time, as Chris Lane just had to tow back to pits as well, so he's had some issues. But for Bradley Tidwell, he wants to push on here and get this car back up the front end of town, knowing that he started inside the top 10. Although multiple cars having some incidents here, as Ken Clodden's gone around just around this corner here at turn 3.
And there he is, sitting there trying to back up. So he's fallen way down the order, watching everybody pass him by as he still sits there. Now he gets going. So he has lost 5 positions in class, sits 12th, which will be shotgun on the field there. He's got a little bit of time to catch up between Price, Tidwell, and O'Brien. So even with that spin, Tidwell gains 1 position. Let's see what happened here with Chris Lane, and just slow and stops, take into pit road. That is odd.
Yeah. I have to wonder if it's either he's had a technical issue or something's happened and he just had to hop off the rig there, of course. And I've learned recently that anything can quite happen whilst you're driving, Jeremy. In fact, Thursday evening I was collecting a replay file for a broadcast that I often do. Saturday evening, come to find out that one of the drivers had to deliberately crash their car because their dog was getting attacked by a snake, and he had to jump off the rig to go and save his dog. I know.
Oh,
but
that's rough.
The great side of the story is he saved his dog is okay. And the drivers of that league, actually, because we give out a Driver of the Day award, and we let the chat decide, because it is a replay file broadcast, we let the chat decide. Often it's the fellow drivers in the league. They voted him as the Driver of the Day that day, because if he had not thrown out his race, he actually would have finished 2nd place on the day. So he gave up a podium finish to go save his dog, which is a very heroic thing. But yeah, anything can happen whilst you're on the rig, whether it's real world or whether it's an incident or whether it's your rig has an issue. Someone could pull over for any reason at any time, and ultimately something's happened for Chris Lane to have to pull over as Danny O'Brien has spun round his Ferrari up on the back straight between turn 3 and turn 4, as well as we follow along here with Vladislav Poklonsky and Stephen Smalley battling away here for P8 in the pro class at this stage. It's P9 overall as Cody Bonte in the Pro-Am classes fought his way inside of the overall top 10 here tonight. For Poklonsky, the Ukrainian, he continues to fight his way forward within his pro class. He's up 5 spots already in this race, Jeremy, doing a great job on board that Aston Martin.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a lot of great battles here in the pro class. Yeah, we watched that battle between Pussy, Van Roy, and the Luna right there. And we go back to this battle for 9th place in class between Smalley, Fock, and Hilderick, as Hilderick's going to look to the outside, I should say, of turn number 3. And that's a tough spot to try and make something happen there. But you still got that great launch coming off the corner. He gets that nose out front, and he's going to slide his way in front of Fox. So move Hilderick Jr. up to 10th. Now sets his sights on Smalley and Boklonsky as they work their way into turn 4. But Fox not going to have anything left. He's not going to let that lay down too easy. Pops to the inside a little bit through 4. And another passing opportunity here shortly. But either way, this clump here for 6th in the AM class also looking good, as Risley, Schneibel, Soames, you see them all throughout. O'Brien also involved. One car going a little wide. That's going to be a no-no. We might see a slowdown penalty for that one.
It was so close there for Bradley Tidwell. He's nearly been spun round by the Mustang. He fixed him up in the end and straightened him back up again. Hayden Young, by the way, in pit lane due to a black flag penalty here. So I think there is race control. I believe they're working overtime as well. And I've just come across that on screen right there. A massive pile-up of cars down at turn 4. So it appears that everyone's losing their marbles at this stage of the race. Jeremy, we're only 17 minutes into this thing. Oh, my Lord. Oh, well, how many
look
times?
Look at Tidwell with the save of the race.
I know.
Tidwell with the
unbelievable.
Yeah, he looked. We saw him on camera. He's like, "Oh, well, that was fun." Because I mean, the poor guy. I was gonna say he can't buy a break right now. Well, I guess he just did. You might as well go to the store after this and buy a lotto ticket. Tidwell in that Ferrari. You got a spinner up ahead as well. That is not sure who that is, but they've continued on. Dew's out of the race, and that was Curtis Williams with the spin. He is your class leader in the AM class as well.
Mitchell Williams has been spun round down at turn 9 onto the exit there just before turn 10 as well. So they're starting to drop like flies here, it seems. And for Tidwell, he's cool, calm and collected. It appears that he's just trying to smoothly move his way forward here this evening after an early spin in this race. He's down 18 positions. We'll see how many he's going to be down by the end, as we're encroaching onto the 3rd of the way marker here of this race, as we're about to hit 18 minutes completed. It is Ryan Miriam leading for the GT3 Pro class to Pierre Poussey and David Van Roy. And to the Pro-Am class, it is Cody Bonti leading to Raul Pasta and Bobby Lewolski as well. And for our amateurs, it's Curtis Matthews leading the way to John Gardner and Julian Rice. For our top 3 of the amateur classes, Pernell Hanolt, has gone around in that Pro-Am class. He's off at the exact same point as where we saw Mitchell Williams off, only a lap ago.
First apex there really does bite you if you're not too careful. So yeah, let's see if how Hanolt gets back onto the circuit, and just facing the wrong way, and tough to have to get that started and still have this battle going on with Bonti. That's actually a battle, I believe, that is out of class. Either way, 4th of class with Crawley and Olinger. We were watching that a little bit on. That's for Pro-Am. Crawley with a 4-position gain so far from his grid spot. So a great start to this race for the BMW driver, as Lewowski trying to do all he can to stay on that bottom step of the podium. Has about half a second a hand over Crawley. You're watching on board with the BMW driver from Hungary, as they work their way out of turn number 6, headed towards turn number 7 here shortly. But yeah, that all-black Mobil 1 paint scheme. I love the silhouette of the Pegasus there, and it just looks so sharp on the back of that BMW.
Yeah, this BMW paint's been making the rounds recently in multiple GT3 leagues that I've been calling, Jeremy, and every time I see it, I just think, man, whoever has made that thing has done a top effort. If only it was, well, I'm not even sure if it is actually based on a real car or not, but if it was, that thing would strike fear in you being in the mirrors. Just the black BMW shadow right in your mirrors, putting massive pressure on you. Carl Crowley is putting maximum pressure right now on Alan Purser. In fact, 2 spots behind Pal. We mentioned the game that he's had here tonight. Tim Probert up 22 positions on the overall to this point in time into P19. What a phenomenal run in the first third of this race. That is a fantastic gain within the class. He's up 4 at this point in time, but again, on those overalls, he's up 22 into the top 20. That's a great run here for the McLaren driver.
No, it really is. And Descendant Racing McLaren looking pretty good so far. He's got a way to get up to Alan Purser in that Porsche, but still up that many overall is absolutely fantastic in spite of the, we're going to call it lack of attrition, because usually these incidents, it's either been spin, slight contact, and continue. Right now, it looks like we've only lost 3-4 cars so far, as John Schneibel still in the pits trying to get repaired. Cameron Risley, Chris Slane, Scott Carlson, and Dustin Don Vi are all out of the race so far. Still have a good battle for second in GT3 Pro with Pierre Pucci, David Van Roy, and Brian Faluna. Now, here's the thing, too. Van Roy has lost one position because he was on the front row. Pucci, though, holding station in that Porsche, looking pretty good as we see more pit stops come in. But either way, Hayden Young is going to be the next car to come in the Lamborghini for his compulsory pit stop. Faluna, the interested spectator there in fourth place. Look at the side-by-side as Pucci goes high-wide. Not going to make it happen. He might even lose another spot.
Well, he's made it through turn 3. He's managed to hold on here, but for Van Roy, he is struggling for straight line speed right now down the straight. He's about to lose out here to Brian Faluna into P on a turn 4, and the Rexy livery makes its way through to P3 on the overall and for the pro class as well. A great run for Brian Faluna at this time by, as Van Roy drops position, and as we encroach on the 22-minute marker here. We know that the cars have got 80% fuel tank capacities here tonight, so they're guaranteed to need one stop, of course. Compulsory as it will be, they're not going to make it to the end on fuel in this race, so they will need to pit anyway for the one stop. But they've gotten past the point now where they could pit and they could make it home, so we're definitely going to see maybe some early strategy calls, maybe a couple of undercuts start to be made here as drivers are starting to fight their way into a solid strategy game here. But this is where it's important to be clean across the first quarter of the race. Got to keep yourself clean and tidy across the first sort of 10 or 15 laps. Put yourself in a good position. There's no room for error here at the Red Bull Ring, and if you've made a mistake early, especially with only being a 55-minute race this morning, well, you've got a lot of work to do to try and fight your way back before you out to the top end of town. But as we begin lap 16, we want to give a quick shout out as well, of course, to all the great supporters out there in the Coffee Cup, and as well here to Old Guys Racing League for OGRL as well. We want to give a shout out to MES Solutions, as well as Beaver Boost Mods, Arcadian Woodcraft, and Laurie's Locks as well. And we also want to give a shout out too to our stream sponsors as well, bringing us on board too. Our Gracie and Friends as well. There's another one. I missed that one when I made my list. That's my fault. Gracie and Friends as well help bring OGRL to your screens week in and week out here for the Coffee Cup. But to our stream sponsors as well, who've been around with us for such a long time. Our newest sponsor for this year in 2026, of course, is the Roasted Record down in Florida. You can use SIM20 at checkout to get yourself a cheeky little discount on some brews and tunes delivered straight to your door. They'll deliver pretty much anywhere, as long as you're willing to pay the shipping, of course. Or you can go visit them in person, check out some of the records they got, and taste some of the artisan coffee they've got there too, as well. To DRE Digital Race Engineer, who've been with us since day one, as well as Track Cams for Gourmets as well. They help make the broadcast look as spectacular as it does, with some fantastic camera angles in and outside of the car. You can go check them out if you want to buy some of the camera packs available for your own broadcasting needs as well. But Jeremy, we're just about at the halfway point of this race, and it has been full intensity thus far for a lot of different drivers, and ultimately name of the game tonight's been consistency, but also it's been a race of attrition at this point in time.
Tell you what, Faluna got really close to the back bumper of Pucci. He's able to get back out of the gas a little bit earlier than he really needed to, but yeah, a lot of great battles, a lot of great consistency all throughout the field as Alan Purser is into the pits from 13th in the GT3 Pro class. You see the class leaders up at the top of your screen, so you know who you're pulling for. But Pucci, here's the thing though, one thing we haven't noted yet. Ryan Merriam, he's 11.6 seconds ahead of this battle right here. There is your leader so far, and no surprise here that he's doing quite well. You take a look at the point standings in Season 5 in the Coffee Cup, and he's up at the top. You know, he's got 148 points at hand over Aaron Gearing, who has 136 points, and that's already with a drop in round 1 and not even starting last time out.
Oh, I can tell you right now, Jeremy, I have a feeling that Ryan may buy his coffee from the Roasted Record. Maybe that's what's making it so tough this morning.
Yeah, I think so. This is absolutely fantastic.
I think the artisan coffee is helping him push ahead by 12.5 seconds over Pierre Pucci at this stage. And really, through qualifying, we saw the pace that he had in that car. He's done a better lap in race conditions than he did in qualifying, Jeremy. He's done a 28.67 in race conditions. He only managed a 28.99 in qualifying, for crying out loud. I mean, it's ridiculous that he can put that sort of lap together in these conditions. Now, yes, maybe lighter fuel load could have a case to play for that as well. The fact that he's done that's incredible.
It really is, and it just goes to show that some drivers just have it when it comes to race time. You know, yeah, they'll go do a great killer qualifying lap, but they just get into another realm when it comes to race time. As you're watching this battle for overall position, not necessarily class position. Quit Price sitting there in 8th place in class with Bradley Tidwell, not too far away as well. But Jel Songs sitting there in 5th place in class right there. That's a tight battle for it. Overall, not necessarily class position. There's only a handful of class races that we're seeing up and down through the field. The big one there being that one for second you see on your timing screen, but still a lot of, because these guys have a lot of people to race with, but either way, it's something that we've been seeing all throughout iRacing is Bradley Tidwell. You see his onboard camera, the focus, the determination within this, within the exit turn number 3, the CQB Square Delta 6 Lamborghini looking oh so tight. 14th in class in the GT3 Pro.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's done so well to this point in time, of course, and for Tidwell, he's just trying to fight his way back forward through the field. He's now gained another 4 positions. He was down 18, currently down 14 at this point in time, as he's just trying to fight his way back into the top 20 at this point in time too, Jeremy. But we're nearly at the half an hour mark. I'm sorry, I hate to do this. I have to say, wait, I didn't get a drink. I just had a cough attack. Sorry, I'm back in 2 seconds.
Go ahead. I could take this. Not a big deal, but this battle for 5th I was also watching quite tightly, too, in the pro class between Brent Cook and Alexander Claudio. Claudio making his way down the field, but either way, that Corvette all over the back of the McLaren. He decides to kind of wait a little bit through turn number 4 as the AMS-Oil McLaren makes his way around the corner. Again, Brent Cook, your 5th place driver in the McLaren, number 367, through turn 6, and now setting up for turn number 7. And, you know, we talk about the differences between the McLaren and the Corvette. They're both mid-engine cars, but yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you have the right setup for that McLaren going through into the sprint race. In 55 minutes, we're just about 25 away from crowning a champion here today at the Red Bull Ring for each class. Battle for 11th class between Jeremy Chaney and Tim Prober. Prober, as we said, climbing his way through the field. He's now up 6 in the pro class. Can he make it up through 7? He closes in as Lewowski goes into the pits from 3rd in the Pro-Am class. A little bit of sparks underneath that McLaren. And look at Chaney. Chaney given the inside to Probert. Probert's going to take that quite quickly, and he's going to easily dispatch of the Porsche of Chaney. So move Probert up to 11th in class. He's got about 6.2 seconds to get up to Sebastian Fock, who's sitting there in 10th. Can he do it? He might be able to do it on the undercut, but we'll see here as time quickly passes. Battle for 7th now back in class between Poklonski, Smalley, and Hillerick.
We can see as well, as they battle away, just continuing to apply intensity and pressure at this stage of the race. And it's important they don't get overlocked with themselves, as Chaney and Claudio have got black flags at this point in time too. So we'll find those cars coming into pit road, sorting themselves out, of course. But unfortunately for these guys, they've got to try and limit themselves here. They're getting caught out in issues, and it's going to cost them positions ultimately this morning here, Jeremy. And you know, as we said earlier on, it's a race of attrition. You've got to be consistent, and unfortunately, getting yourself a black flag, especially at this point of the race, it's arguably a race killer in terms of trying to get into the top 10, because you've only got 25 minutes to get back into the top 10. I don't see a world in which that happens unless there's pure chaos on board for us here for the second half of this race.
You know what, though? Here's the good thing, too. You have, if you get the black flag, which you don't want to get it before your pit stop, you can come in, service it, take the penalty, and then go out. Oh, there's Corrali with a spin coming out of turn number 9 and almost gets hit twice there as he gets started. So he's able to get it to move out of the way. That's probably the best case scenario right now as Cheney serves the black flag. He is in. Hillerick is leaving pit road as we speak as well. But I would rather have my black flag before the race instead of after the race. That way I don't have to push too hard, maybe cause more penalties to kind of stave off whatever penalty I may be getting from race control.
I suppose that what comes down to, well, what black flag would you rather? Would you rather get a stop hold, or would you rather get the drive-through? I'm going to get a black flag. I'd rather have a drive-through, obviously, than have a stop hold. But yeah, I mean, it's, I think if it was a longer race and you had the opportunity maybe to wait until your pit stop to serve a 40-second stop hold instead of driving through pit lane, could that be a better option for you? Quite possibly, but there's always the argument, though, of, Jeremy, do the crime, you got to do the time. Well, perhaps don't do the crime next time, and then you don't have to.
Well,
pretty straightforward.
Here's the thing. Case in point, I do an oval series on Saturday nights, and we had a race last night, and it wasn't necessarily a penalty, but man, iRacing is they're kind of inconsistent in some of their rules. The guy that was in question, he had to go down to avoid a crash, and he still lost his position over the eventual winner. So, I mean, the inconsistencies with iRacing, I could see it from both ways, but yeah, don't do the time. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Valuna closing in on Pussy. I'll tell you what, this battle here is great because you also have David Van Hoy finding an extra gear, and he's closed in on Valuna as well.
As indeed. This battle's really starting to heat up between them now, and of course it's been going on for the last sort of 15 minutes or so in their battle for P2. The unfortunate problem for them, they're battling away like this, is they're giving up big time up to Miriam ahead of them, so they've got to be cautious of that. In fact, he's 14 seconds ahead. They're not worried about him at this point in time. They're worried about where they are in consolidating position. To the point as well, quickly here for the don't do the crime, don't do the time. As a league admin myself, I've run through many drivers complaining about getting penalties before, especially with a series that runs live race control too. And I always say to them, well, if another driver done that, would you have wanted them to get a penalty? And when they say yes, I say to them, well, then why shouldn't you? And then they don't say anything about it. So, because it's me. Yeah. So it's, the worst I've had is when drivers get to the point of, because we have a license point system, Jeremy, so if they obviously break the rules too many times, they get stacked penalties. The worst one we've had is someone ran through 6 license points thresholds in one race.
Oh my god.
And you have to get to do that, you have to, and they were already on their first threshold, so they went from the first one to the 6th or 7th. Like, you have to get to 13 license points to do that. The way they did that was they had an intentional wreck, which is 3 license points. They also had a rage quit, which is 3 license points. So it was very quickly able to spread up. They got themselves not only championship points penalties, they got rear of grid, a round ban, and a 3-round ban. So, don't do the crime. You don't have to do the time. And if the time for you is a 4-round ban, you've done something wrong. As Ryan Miriam, who's not done anything wrong all night, comes into pit lane, and Pierre Pussy will follow him as well. If our race leader, ultimately he looks unbeatable right now, Jeremy. I have to say, as Brian Felina has just gotten a slowdown through the final corner, and he's going to have to serve this before turn 3 because it will not withstand the run up the hill. It's going to give the position to David Van Roy as well, as he gets by him. But yeah, for Miriam, he's unbeatable at this point. 14-second gap to the race lead. Something wild's going to have to happen for him to lose this race.
It really will. Faluna gets that slowdown penalty taken away now, so it's going to have to be the overcut. So Roy and Faluna, they really have to get out there and try and open up the gap now. It's 14.4 seconds between Faluna and Merriam as he goes back onto the circuit around turn number 3. And now we're seeing the Mad Dash to pit road. Brent Cook, Sebastian Fack, they're both out as Fack is flashing his lights. I should say, as Boosie flashed his lights there ahead of the Corvette. So Claudio going to lose that spot because the Mustang's slowing down just a little bit. That's an out-of-class battle. You got some McLaren. No, that's a Lamborghini there, but I'll tell you what, Boosie's using that flash button like crazy coming off of turn 3.
Blame him. You got lap traffic ahead of you. You wanted to get out of your way, and ultimately you don't want to be holding him up either. And obviously it's my first round with OGRL, so I'm not completely up to date with their blue flag rules. In terms of real world racing, blue flag rules, Jeremy, I should say, it is, you can't defend position. You don't necessarily have to move, but it's the gentlemanly thing to do is move out of the way and let them go. He just wants to move as fast as he can because he knows that Faluna and Van Roy are coming into pit lane. He doesn't want to get held up. If he gets held up for even a second, he's going to drop position to them. So he's got to try and make a move, got to try and push on. Miriam will take back the race lead. And this battle will continue on between Smalley and Poklonsky as well. And their venture for P11 within their class here tonight for the Pro Class classifications. Of course, we have got less than 20 minutes to go on the clock. If a Pussy rides up towards turn 1, he's gotten Van Roy. He's coming right on exit to Faluna as well. Faluna's got him, so that Mustang has cost him P2 in the race. He's on warm tyres though, full speed, up towards turn 3. Faluna will cover the inside. Can Pussy get the job done on the outside? Sure he can. Rexy's not going to come back at him just yet. And the Cat Machine Porsche straight through to P2 on the road, and the battle continues on for the final podium positions.
As Faluna doesn't have to worry too much about Roy, as Roy's about 1 second back. Not a good outlap for the Aston Martin, but give a hand to Pierre Pussies. Now he's in second place, and Brian Faluna up 3 spots since his grid position. Aaron Gearing into the pits, trying to see who else is taking a pit stop. I think that is everybody. So once Gearing comes out of the pit, actually Gearing's in the pits and time is stopped. So I have a feeling that Gearing might be, no, he's in the pits right now. So Gearing in the pits. Everybody has taken their compulsory pit stop. Take a look at the times of each and every driver. That's how much we've seen drivers in the pits to get some sort of mechanical fix to get back out there. But Faluna not making life easy for Pussy. That's also giving Roy a chance to close in. This is the battle for second and third in the Pro Class for the bottom step podium, which should be decided in a little more than 15 minutes from now.
We've had an update in the chat just based on that blue flag rule. Don't put yourself in a bad position on a blue/yellow flag. It's still up to the faster car to get by, and that's how it would be in racing. It's up to the faster car to get by you safely, but don't defend the position too hard or put yourself in a horrid position. And for Pussy, well, he got held up, unfortunately, for only a moment, and it cost him the position momentarily. He's gotten it back now, but for Corrali, he continues this battle with the likes of Price and Tidwell ahead of them too. And I'm interested to see where Tidwell's going to end up after his pit stop, because he's only down 11 positions at this point in time. He last pitted, actually, he pitted on lap 23, so he can make it home from here. It's all gains for Tidwell at this point, Jeremy. He could just yet get this car maybe back into the top 15. I think almost guaranteed, though, he could be back into the top 20, and he's all smiles once again, knowing that he's on the gains up the tower at this point in time.
Well, he's got a Pro-Am and an Am class car that he's got to pass here in just a little bit with Bailey and Reese. Sawyer with a slowdown penalty. So he's got a bit of time to catch up to those 2 cars. He might be able to get up 1 more spot in class. Speaking of spots in class, still have Probert and Claudio going neck and neck, and Omaha the Mighty have fallen. Remember, Claudio was racing for the top 5, but lost a bunch of position through that pit stop, and able to now have to race Probert, who high climber of the race for the Pro Class at least, up 8 spots in the number 12 McLaren. That set McLaren looking absolutely slick with highlighted lines and everything. And Hillerich gets a solid black in pit road, so I think he was too fast entering. He was 9th in class. He's not going to be 9th in class much longer, as Probert and Claudio will pass him here on the circuit momentarily. But you are watching this battle for second place between Pussy, who has it, Faluna, who wants it, and he's closing in ever so slightly. That interested spectator is the front row qualifier, David Van Roy. Here comes Probert closing in on Hillerick. As Hillerick comes out of the pits, he was able to serve that black flag penalty, but now it's only a matter of time before Probert catches up to Hillerick, with Probert having the little bit better warm tires.
Well, of course, he's up 28 positions on the overall to this point in time, up 8 in his class is Tim Probert. So he's on the move here tonight as we ride on board with Pierre Pucci once again, and the battle for P2 continues to rage on with Brian Faluna and David Van Roy in behind them as well. As Corrales in pit lane with a black flag, that's taken him out of Pro-Am honours here tonight. That'll take him out of any sort of result as well, with only 14 minutes on the clock here in Spielberg, Austria, for the Red Bull Ring here this evening. And for the Porsches on the podium, they want to hold out strong and hold off one of those dominant Aston Martins, who's dropped 2 positions to P4 at this point in time of the race. He wants to get back up there to the top 2 where he started it, off of that Aston Martin front row lockout as Price has Tidwell and he's outside. And they battle away for overall positions at this point. Tidwell's on the run. Wants it on the outside at turn 7. Can he get the job done on the Porsche? He'll hold the inside at 8. And Tidwell will scream the Lambo through and get himself back up into P23. More moves to be made, though, to get back into the top 20.
And if you're Tidwell, you're kind of holding your breath through there, because Sector 2 has not been kind to him, whether it's practice, qualifying, or the race. Now we take a look at Faluna, who's close in within 0.2 of a second on Pucci, who is sitting in second place. Merriam with a 17-second gap. That race basically done and dusted unless something happens. And look at that, Rexy is hungry for another spot, and he wants some Porsche for dinner. Off of turn number 10, Pucci doing all he can to hold off Faluna. Does Faluna take the inside pop here and kind of show himself? He's going to show himself, but he's not going to make anything happen too far away. But he closes in through turn number 1, gets a great exit off at 1, and now we set ourselves up for that run to turn 3. A little kink for turn 2 here just before we enter into the turn 3 complex. And of course, you're watching Roy. It's the back there's the interested spectator. Neither one is giving an inch. Neither one going to try anything around turn number 3. Down the 3-4 straightaway off Amsag to Rouch. Let's see what happens. They're still not close enough to make a pass happen unless somebody breaks late, breaks early, but I don't think that's going to happen either. These two are very comfortable where they're at with just about 10 minutes left to go in this race. It's anybody's battle for second place as Faluna's going to go look to the inside and tighten off that corner.
I think ultimately he wants to wait now until probably the final 5 minutes before he makes his move for position. There's no point trying to go for it now if he's not 100% confident that he holds pace over Pucci. I mean, you look at their fastest lap times as Probert gets up the inside. It's another position gain for him now, up 29 positions on the overall as Fack has a black flag. And into pit lane he'll come to serve a drive-through penalty for Pucci and Faluna, their fastest laps of the race. Pucci, 129.09. Faluna, 129.04. What their last lap times were? 129.59 for Pucci and Faluna was a 129.54. Although on this previous lap, Pucci was the faster driver with a 5.5 on board as opposed to a 7.5 for Faluna. So there's a bit of pace, but for Faluna, he knows he's not outpacing Pucci at this point in time. They're running about the same lap times. The bigger worry is that Aston Martin on his heels, who may try and make an attempt at P3 as we ride with Poklonsky and Smalley. We've had this battle raging now for the last 20 minutes of this race, and they continue to run it forward. And it's kind of become the story of the night thus far, Jeremy, of the morning, I should say. I'm used to broadcasting at night, whether it's my own night or US nights. I'm not used to doing morning broadcasts, and 2:25 in the morning, give me a break. Story of the race really has been Aston Martin versus Porsche. Wherever we've looked, we've had an Aston Martin versing at least one Porsche out there. So it's really becoming the narrative of the evening here at Spielberg.
somebody who works in the morning for his 9 to 5, this is actually perfect for me because I don't have to stumble over my, oh wait, it's the after 3. Oh wait, yeah, no, this is great having a morning race. Is David Van Roy. You're watching him. He started on the front row and he's fallen 2 spots to, with Pussy and Faluna. They both have gained 1 spot and 3 spots respectively. Now that goes in on a Mustang out of class, but still this battle for second rages on. Pussy has had a couple of attacks, nothing too major, but let's see if Pussy can easily make his way around the Mustang and leave Faluna and Van Roy behind. He flashes the lights, goes to the inside, not going to lose at least Faluna. He's not going to lose Van Roy either, but they start to gap themselves just a little bit heading into turn number 3. This time it's 0.3 of a second between Pussy and Faluna, half a second between Faluna and Van Roy. So I think that, yeah, the next 5 minutes are going to be key to see if Faluna can catch up to Pussy and make that pass to swap positions on the podium.
We saw just then, you know, Charles O'Brien didn't want any part of this battle. He doesn't want to be a factor in deciding a podium here tonight. He got right out of the way, let those guys by relatively easily, which is great to see. As Alexander Claudio and James Hillerick continue their battle, as James has lost the position on the previous lap, so the Corvettes managed to get by the Ferrari at this point in time. And as they run it up towards turn 3, Hillerick not quite willing to dive bomb him at this point in the race with 8.5 minutes to go. We're back with the top 2 battle of Faluna and Pussy, and Van Roy lurking in the background, almost foaming at the mouth, waiting for contact to happen and for him to get the 2 positions for free. But the longer this goes on, well, the patient game of Faluna could pay off for him. He's running the long game. He doesn't need to get past Pussy until the final lap. And I have a feeling that he may have been just waiting and lurking in wait a little bit here, Jeremy, watching where Pussy's strong, where he's a little bit weaker, and what may be the best choice for Faluna to go for the move, and maybe just anticipating, when should I go for it? What corner is going to be the best time? Where have I been faster? Where has he been a little bit off the pace? He's right up the ginger of Pussy's car. Long game, patient game. That's the story for Faluna right now. And I think he is calculating exactly when to go for it in this race.
You see the bottom right-hand side of your screen. That's not even our closest battle. Gardner versus Bailey right now for 20th position is our best battle, but still, your 2 other closest battles are this one that we're watching right here, but that right there is that close battle between the 2 drivers. That is actually going to be out-of-class battle between Gardner and Bailey. Let's go back to that battle for second place. We've been watching between Pussy, Faluna, and Van Roy. And, you know, we mentioned where's he weak, you know, where are they going to be able to make the pass, but also got to add where are they going to catch the lap traffic. Now we're getting into that time of the race where that's going to cause so much issues for Pussy, as he's not only does he have to try and manage the lap traffic, but he's also going to try and make sure that Faluna and Roy can't match it that much. Roy all over the back of Faluna. Let's see if he pops out here in turn number 1, and he's closing, and that Aston Martin just looks menacing each and every meter down the front straightaway. Does not make anything happen. I think he's quite content to see if Pussy and Faluna, I should say, if they make a mistake. Down into turn 2, now through turn 3, you see all that lap traffic that those 3 drivers have to manage. Here comes Faluna to the inside of Pussy. He makes his move at turn number 3, bashes him out of the way just a little bit, and Pussy shoves his way into 3rd place. Move Faluna to 2nd, but how long will that last? Curtis Matthews, your class leader, as you see John Gardner, Will Bailey, 2nd and 6th so far, as this battle for 2nd place. Now 3rd place heats up as Pussy goes high, wide, and handsome takes the asset to the outside, turn number 7, but Pussy not going to let him have it that easy. Should say turn 6, turn 7 is where Pussy is still out front, but look at the gap that Faluna has opened up on Pussy as they're still side by side through turn 8. Now Pussy continues to stay in 3rd place, but how long will that last? Pussy wants to keep it a 2-3 Porsche podium, but Roy wants to get back on that podium and limit the bleeding that he's caused in the early part of this race. Roy gets a slowdown penalty.
I've just made the biggest rookie mistake of my life, Jeremy. didn't unmute my mic when you went to me. That's my own fault.
I've done that a lot, don't worry.
I was going bananas because we need to find a replay of this at some point if I can, because Faluna got past Boosie at turn 3. Boosie tried to come back at him at turn 4, overshot and went into the gravel trap, and I was losing my mind. I didn't even get to capture it. It's my own fault. Oh, I shouldn't have had my microphone on mute. That's my own fault. But here we see it. So Faluna gets the job done up at turn 3, and we saw the lap traffic ahead. He was a late dive, went for it. Great choice of move. A little bit of a door bang, but that's okay. But then you see Van Roy hot on the heels of Pussy, giving him a little tap, and watch the run down towards turn 4, because for Pussy, he wanted this move so badly, so badly. Looked to dive up the inside and just overshot it and nearly ran out to the gravel, and it almost cost him P3 to Van Roy. And this was the lurking game we spoke about for the Aston Martin. He was waiting to pick up the crumbs like a vacuum, and he just couldn't quite do it off the exit of turn 6. But man, it's heating up here for P3.
Yeah, P3 is absolutely fantastic battle here as, Faluna opens up a bigger gap. Now Van Roy's fallen off just a little bit as Pussy's now closed in on Faluna once again. Was that pass a little too early? That's the question of the day, as we'll see where they're at here shortly. This is a battle for 6th in class between Poklonsky and Smalley. You see Smalley trying to close in on that Porsche, on that Aston Martin around the turn, heading into turn 1. Now this battle for 2nd place heats up. There's a spinner ahead of them, but still Faluna and Pussy able to get around there with no problem. Talk about a little bit of a scare, because they've got more lap traffic to handle.
Yeah, that's JT Sawyer, who's gone around in the McLaren, and he's just trying to do his best. Mr. Bean, 100-point turn to get that car back around. He's done the job. There's been another Porsche off the road down there as well with Adrian Rich, so turn 3 is becoming a little bit of a car park for some drivers as Hillerich and Cheney come into pit lane now with drive-through penalties, so that'll drop them outside of the top 10 in this race. But for Pierre Pussy and Brian Faluna, it's back on for P2. Little wiggle off of turn 7 for Pussy as he continues to push on. We've got 2.5 minutes to go. That's where Hillerich comes out of pit lane in between Pro-Am driver of Will Bailey and the amateur driver of John Gardner on the podium at this stage for the evening. He's trying to chase down the leader in Curtis Matthews for that class at this point in time. The Pro-Am class looks to be decided with Cody Bonte and multiple seconds ahead over P2. In fact, 22.8 seconds ahead of Raul Pasta. And for our Pro class, of course, Ryan Merriam, 20 seconds ahead of P2 in Brian Faluna. So that class looks to be wrapped up at this point in time as well. But for Curtis Matthews and John Gardner, it's all on for the amateurs, with only half a second separating them. A single mistake could cost one of them. They've got to get home to the checkered flag and try and maximise the runs they've had tonight. Matthews up 4, Gardner is up 12 in this race in terms of overall position, as there's contact in behind, as James Hillerich, who's just come out of pit lane from that drive-through, is off the road and in the gravel, and he's just towed it back to pit lane.
Looks like the back end wanting to see what the front end's looking at, and Hillerich decided, you know what, it's just not worth it to get out there for that the final lap and a half, and he is indeed in there. And we will see the 1 to go signal this time by for Merriam, as still watching Poklonsky and Smalley go side by side down the straightaway. Both of these drivers not giving an inch. Oh, that almost was a touch there out of Smalley, and he does concede the position for the time being, but Poklonsky not letting him have it. 1 lap to go here at the Red Bull Ring, but these drivers still have a lap and a handful of corners left to go to make something happen, and we still got that close battle for second. Faluna gets a black flag. Faluna's race is over as he gets the solid black flag. He'll take the penalty later, so that's going to be an Aston Martin 1-3. What happened there with Faluna?
Oh, that surely has to be based on the pass on Pussy up at turn 3, although that's a very heavy penalty for a little door touch through turn 3, so I wonder what more has come of that and why he's been given what will be a post-race drive-through on board that car. It's heartbreak for the fans of the 23 Porsche out there. But it means that Pussy now has enough to push. He can just sit where he is. He'll finish P2. Doesn't matter at this point in time. We mentioned the mistakes can be massive. Curtis Matthews, who was P2 in the AM class, has gone off the road. Down at turn 7. Means that John Gardner will come home in a moment's notice, unpressured, as the race leader is entering the final 2 corners, and it was contact between them. My Lord, what a nuclear moment at the end of this one. But Ryan Merriam comes around turn 10. Dominance personified in Spielberg. 20.75 seconds on the clock. Race winner for the pro class here this evening.
And of course, you take a look at the 43 sitting there in position. The battle for second gonna go down to 0.8 of a second as you see Pussy trying to hold off Roy. He does on the circuit. It's going to be Faluna, but post-race it's going to be Pussy and Roy on the podium. Here comes the battle for 6 again between Polanski and Smalley. Cody Bonte, though, a top 10 finish for him, actually top 5 overall. The Pro-Am winner finishes and wins in class. Let's go back to that battle for 6th place between Polanski and Smalley. This is for the Pro class as Polanski gets a good run coming off of turn 10. He's going to hold off all challenges by Smalley and finish 6th, 7th to Smalley. What a fantastic race. Let's find our Pro-Am leader, and that's John Gardner. He's done all he can, has a couple cars between he and Julian Rice. Off of turn number 8, sets down the straightaway, sets up for turn 9. The Mercedes driver up 2 spots overall on the day, but either way, John Gardner, the American, comes around turn number 10 on the brakes, takes his monster Mercedes off of turn number 10. Checker flag is out. Your Pro-Am, your Am winner today is John Gardner. Still got a handful of cars still taking their checker flag, and everybody, I believe, has taken their final checker flag. But what a race that we saw here today at the Red Bull Ring. Merriam with the overall dominant victory, but Pussy and Roy eventually on the podium, and that was after a black flag from Faluna. But either way, that's not the way you want to see the race go down. Bonte, a strong 5th place overall, and 1st place in Pro-Am, and John Gardner keeping it clean, 6 seconds ahead of Rice for that win. Rice and Matthews on the podium there for the Am class, Pasta and Olinger on the Pro-Am podium. Well, let's take a look at the final standings as they are here at the Red Bull Ring, and there you go. You see Ryan Merriam, Pierre Pussy, and David Van Roy. Again, this is all official, I believe, as the penalties have indeed been handed down. Pussy ran so tough to try and stay in that podium position, ends up getting 2nd at the end. Take a look at your hard charger, Tim Probert. No surprise there, 32 positions on the day. Most laps led by Merriam with 36, fastest lap of the race by Merriam, and of course the pole position as well. I've got to say, that was an absolute fantastic race, as there were just so many great battles up and down the grid.
Oh, there was. I mean, fantastic battles throughout each class here tonight, of course. For our Pro-Am class, it is Cody Bonte, 25 seconds adrift of Raul Pasta in P2, with Heath Olinger in P3 as well. Danny O'Brien apparently up 26 positions. Unfortunately, with multi-class in terms of single cars, it gets the hard charger a little bit incorrect every now and again, but that's okay. Cody Bonte, though, fast up the race for that class, 129.192. He had the pole position as well. It was a dominant performance here tonight for himself. For the rest of the Pro-Am field, it was Lowalski ahead of Bailey and Henelt, with Dew, Culloden, Dickerson and Corrali for the top 10 of the Pro-Am class. And to our amateurs we go, John Gardner, Julian Rice ahead of Curtis Matthews too. And, well, the intensity at the end of that one for those final few positions in the AM class, with Curtis Matthews and co for the amateurs, a wild moment to end that one out. And for Gardner, the solid race went up 15 positions overall here this evening to get into P14 on the road out there, Jeremy. But we've got a couple of drivers waiting to come and have a chat to us. And well, I don't know about you, Jeremy. I'm normally one, though, who in multi-class racing, we normally only talk to the race winner for each class. Julian Rice is in there as P2 for the AMs. Do we give him the time in the booth or not? Because he hasn't won the amateur race here this evening.
Well, let's talk to Cody Bonte first. Fifth place overall, your Pro-Am winner. And Cody, congratulations. You ran a pretty hard race there and a very respectable overall finish and a dominating Pro-Am finish as well.
Oh, I guess I didn't even realize I got brought in here. Yeah, no, it was a good day. Very boring day, actually. I think the only racing I had was against Claudio, and that was midway through the race. Otherwise, it was just running laps, man.
Well, sometimes boring's good to you, especially at a 55-minute race when, every point matters when it comes to positions. But you said boring race, but either way, it was quite a simple race as well to run 55 minutes and not have to worry about too much.
Yeah, no, it was good. Just kept track of my tires. Weren't trying to spin them on, what is that, turn 2 on that sharp right-hander. Eats up my tires every time, so I was careful up there.
All right, next time out, we are running at Monza. Talk about what you're going to do for prep for that and how you're looking forward to that next week.
Well, we're going to run a pretty aggressive wing setting. It's a fast track, so hopefully the Porsche can handle that. But it's been doing pretty good this season. I've having a little kick in my step the last couple weeks, so hopefully we can keep on doing that at Monza.
You know what? Go out there and get ready for the race. And yeah, the 5th place overall, winner in Pro-Am. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you talk about that, Hamish. That was a boring race. Okay, boring's good. That's a good thing. You want it to be boring because you don't want to have to worry about, oh my goodness, is somebody at my backside?
That's exactly right. I mean, best race you can have is a boring race because it means you weren't challenged for position. It is always fun though to have a nice, fun race, of course. But yeah, I mean, if you're trying to get yourself a class win at a tough track like the Red Bull Ring, what more could you ask for than a boring race? Ultimately, I think keeping it nice and tidy, keeping yourself clean, and having a good, strong race at the end, I think that's more important than anything. We do not have our amateur winner, John Gardner, waiting for us in the wings, so I think we better just go straight to our pro winner here this evening, and Ryan Merriam, who ultimately, well, Ryan, domination. 20 seconds ahead of P2. You look to be on absolute fire tonight. A 128.99 in qualifying. You went on to beat it in the race with a 128.87. Where does this race performance weigh up for you in terms of solid race wins? Because that was pure dominance tonight, and you looked unbeatable out there. I mean, was it just was everything just clicking for you on the road?
Hey guys. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's really not a fan of this track for GT3 cars. So I wasn't expecting it to be that dominant, I guess. But I got a really good start. I think I caught David off guard by a little bit, and I knew getting pole was pretty crucial just because of how hard it is to pass in a GT3 here. So kind of was just hoping I could get up front and just run my laps, not have to worry about trying to pass people, and and just kind of everything kind of went to plan, so it worked out. Happy with it, but I'm hoping I never have to see this track again for a very long time.
How dare you say that? This is the greatest track in the world, Ryan.
I mean, it's a great track. It's a great track, just not for this car, in my opinion.
No, that's fair. Well, of course, we move on to Monza next week. How are you feeling going into the Temple of Speed? I mean, obviously, I think that sports car racing at Monza can be hit or miss. It really depends how the first 2 turns go ultimately out at Monza. Are you just hopeful next week that you might be able to just make it through the first chicane nice and tidy, get through the second chicane and push on maybe for another race win? Because I think next week's going to be relying on early survival game once again, similarly to how this race was here at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, I haven't run too much Monza, but I do like the track. And like you said, getting through the first chicane is going to be important. So again, hitting pole, be able to get a little jump on the field would make that a lot easier. So that's the goal. But if not, most of the guys, hopefully, we'll take it easy that first turn, cold tires and everything, and we can make it through and be a good race.
Well, we appreciate your time for coming and have a chat to us here this morning, Ryan. Congratulations on your race win. Is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, you guys, thanks for doing the broadcast. I'm excited to give it a watch. Always enjoy that after the race. And I'll shout out Mom in chat. I'm sure she was watching. So that's about it. Thanks for everything, guys.
We appreciate you coming and have a chat to us, Ryan. Congratulations on such a dominant win here out in Spielberg, and best of luck next time out at Monza for the next round of the OGRL Coffee Cup Series.
Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Thanks so much. Ryan Merriam, our race winner here this evening, Jeremy, and ultimately, I think after a performance like that, he sounded very cool, calm, collected, and almost like he just didn't race one of the best drives I've seen in a long time in a GT3 car. I mean, he almost seemed disheveled from that race almost. I don't know what it was about it.
Yeah, that was. I don't think he won good enough, but either way, he said that saying that this is his worst track, how he doesn't like it, and he still dominates.
Yeah, if this is worst track, I'd hate to see him in his best track. I mean, he'd win by 5 laps. I mean, come on.
All right, Hamish, let's wrap this up because I don't think we're going to see Curtis Matthews here. But this was absolutely, in spite of the domination by Ryan Merriam, I think we saw some darn good battles out there throughout the field.
I agree. We saw some fantastic battles all throughout this race this morning, and it's a testament to how good sports car racing can be, not only in iRacing, but just in general. And, if you're only getting into sports car racing for the first time and you're seeing it for the first time through sim racing, I implore you to investigate more sports car racing. Of course, if you're outside the US, you can find IMSA on YouTube and watch it for free every single race. They've been at St. Petersburg this weekend, so you can catch all that action from that series over there. You can even watch WEC as well. There's so much fantastic sports car racing on offer in the real world that it is a hot pot for racing and a hot pot for fantastic motorsport. And in terms of sim racing, well, you've got a hot pot right here on Motormouth Broadcasting with 3 fantastic sports car racing series on offer for you. Of course, Wednesday evenings, we have Full Throttle Nations Ultimate GT Championship. Friday evenings, we have the Bike Point Racing Sports Car Championship, where you'll see some LMP2 action alongside GT3s. And of course, here as well for Sunday mornings, the Coffee Cup brought to you by OGRL as well. I mean, it's a fantastic time to be a sports car racing fan, and there's so much on offer for you through sim racing and real world racing as well. Of course, for OGRL, there's multiple series they run through Ovals and Road Series 2. And as we said, next week, we'll find ourselves out at Autodromo Internazionale di Monza for the next round of the Coffee Cup. So you guys don't want to have to miss that action once again. Quick shout out before we wrap up tonight, Jeremy, of course, to the series sponsors. As always, they help get everything on screen for you via OGRL. So go and support the series sponsors out there. And as well, to our stream sponsors, of course. DRE Digital Race Engineer has been a long-time supporter of the streams, as well as track cams for gourmets, and our newest sponsor, the Roasted Record, as well. You can find them down in Florida, or head to their website, use code SIM20, get a cheeky little discount on some brews and tunes sent straight to your door. They'll ship pretty much anywhere, as long as you're willing to pay the shipping, of course. But that's it from me, Jeremy. It's always a fun time when I get to come to my favourite track, and couldn't have asked for a better way to end my Sunday evening into early Monday morning before I go to bed, and I get to start my week over now after calling a race my favorite track. I couldn't have asked for a better way to do it.
We'll cut you loose, and I will real quickly interview Curtis Matthews, who just hopped into the server. Curtis, your GT3 AM winner. I'm sorry, I might gotta get him in real quick. Not a bad finish for you as you finish off P1 in the AM. Had a Gardner and Rice. Let's do a quick rundown of the race.
Oh, I finished P3.
Oh,
so yeah, John finished
quick.
P1.
Oh, let's still talk about that.
Yeah, no, it was a good race. John's fast. I knew he was going to be a tough competitor this whole week. He's been doing great during the practices. I was in front of him at the last lap, and unfortunately, I got tangled up with Purnell at turn 7, and it just got both of us loose. And yep, John snuck on by and took a little bit of recovery time to get back on the track. But no, it was a fun race. I'm not confident in this track. I knew I wasn't going to be good or overly fast, but it was a lot of fun to learn. And I want to congratulate John. He did a great job, kept it clean. I know he had very minimal incident points, and he's very deserving of the win. So I'm really proud of him. And all the guys in BWE, we all been practicing really hard this week. So yeah, just big congrats to John, and I'm glad he's moved back up with the points so we can compete at the end of the season.
By the way, congratulations on your podium position. Thank you for joining us. And Monza, next week, we'll see you there.
Yes, sir.
Curtis Matthews, your podium finisher there. And yeah, thanks, Ahmed. I appreciate the graphic there. So anyway, on behalf of Oma and Hamish Murno, I'm Jeremy Scott. Remember to keep it between the ditches, keep it pointed forward, and always keep it greasy side down. Thank you for joining us here at Motormouth Broadcasting, where legends are built one corner at a time.